Hello everyone and welcome back. So in today's lesson, we will be going over chapter 8, emotions. Very similar to the last video that you all watched. I'm still, getting a handle on where to look, and I feel like the camera, wait, is the camera? Yeah, the camera's right there. So if you see me like looking off in different directions, it's because I'm still struggling a little bit there. But this is how I plan on doing all of the videos for the remainder of the term. Where you see me, we have the whiteboard behind us, and it's going to list off all of what we will discuss for the lecture. So also, my cat is just running around everywhere, making a lot of noise per usual. So if you hear her in the background, that's what's going on. My parents are also outside cleaning, so there's a lot of external noise taking place, but it's going to be a fun chapter. Chapter 8, emotions. Okay, so let me go ahead and first get up the PowerPoint for us again. I hope that you all like it this way, where you can see the PowerPoint and you can listen to me as well. But let me go ahead and put up the PowerPoint. Google Drive, Microsoft. Okay, and then attachments. Oh no! All right, there we go. Hello, hopefully you can see me because I cannot see myself. I only see the PowerPoint. Okay. All right, so if you went through the module, you'll notice a couple of attachments. So you do have your journal. This is something that I want you to think about while we go over the chapter. So what emotions tend to interfere? Y'all, I have this up literally with tape because my tripod has not yet come. Okay, let's hope that stays up. Yes, I'm literally using tape. Like, if I say it looks weird struggling, and now I feel like it's a little lopsided, but okay. Anyways, so what emotions tend to interfere most with your ability to communicate effectively? So normally we would talk about this a little bit more in class. And as you can see here, we kind of have the theme of emotions. So we have sadness, joy, fear, disgust, anger, and now based off of different scholars, there are emotions that extend just these 5, but think about it. What emotions really impede your flow of being able to communicate effectively? So for me, my anxiety really inhibits my ability to communicate effectively if I'm sad, and also if I'm angry. I have a lot of road rage, so that can definitely inhibit my ability to communicate effectively with other drivers. So the one that kind of really sticks out the most for me, that really does prevent me from kind of being the best version of myself to that self-actualization, is my anxiety. Now, of course, there are different ways that I have been going about managing my anxiety, and I'm aware that I have it, but just out of nowhere, it can, like literally last year, it happened on my birthday where I had an anxiety attack right before my class, and my class was at 7:30 in the morning. So I came in, my students were very nice, they were very sweet. They're like, oh, happy birthday, Cecilia. And I could kind of just shake my head, and they could sense that something was wrong and off with me. But I wasn't my lively and upbeat self. I wasn't able to communicate effectively with them. I remember going over the lesson and kind of tripping a little bit and not being able to really talk in depth about each concept and each theory. And I remember going back and even sending them an email just to kind of rephrase my wording, just so that students could have a better understanding of the course related material that day. So for me, anxiety really does have a huge impact on how I go about my actions for a day. So whether or not I want to stay in my room, whether I want to go to the store, whether I want to talk with my parents, how I talk with my parents, how I talk with my loved ones. So anxiety plays a huge role in how I communicate with other people, and really my actions that I take. And that's something to really keep in mind during this chapter. Chapter 8, emotions, that a lot of the time our emotions dictate our actions. People really want to believe that our actions, for the most part, play a role in our emotions, and that's true as well, right? Emotions and actions, they go hand in hand. But a question that I want you to think about is, why don't we do things we know we should, right? Why don't we eat healthy? Why don't we go to the gym every single day? Why don't we do our homework on time? Why do we procrastinate, right? It's because we don't feel like it. we don't feel like doing it in that very moment. So our emotions, they really do govern a lot of our actions that we take. All right. And the more that we become familiar with like emotional intelligence, with how to go about managing our emotions, the more effective our communication will be with the individuals that matter the most to us, our loved ones. Even if you are taking this class particularly for work or to enhance your communication skills with your employers, it's definitely going to help enhance your ability to communicate more effectively if you're able to really understand your own emotions. So I remember working at Sears, I was frustrated a lot of the time, let me just say that. And was I able to always manage my emotions in a professional demeanor? No, not so much. And again, we all have room for growth in this area, but remember, our emotions play a huge role in our day-to-day lives. It's not just I'm happy every single day, I'm happy right? We do have a lot of positive people around us and in our lives, but we have a variety of emotions that take place on a day-to-day basis. Some of us we exhibit sadness, we exhibit happiness, we exhibit anxiety, even in one single day. So emotions really, really can take a huge toll on an individual. And right now my cat is just right next to y'all. Hey, hi, how you doing? You want to say hi to the people? You want to say hi to the people? Okay, I guess that's a no. Hello, my beautiful people. Yes, you're so good. Okay. All right, I'll leave you alone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As you could see, she runs the room. Okay, okay. Ow. All right, let us move on, shall we? All right, so first we're going to be talking about... Ow. No, honey, no. All right, so first we're going to be talking about emotional intelligence. Second, what even are emotions? What are the characteristics associated with emotions? How do these emotions exist? 3, influences on our emotions. 4, managing our emotions. 5, different fallacies associated with emotions. And then 6, expressing our emotions effectively. All right, so let's jump into what is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and manage one's own emotions and to be sensitive to others' feelings. So when it comes to emotional intelligence, we are not just talking about being able to understand your feelings, understand like, oh, okay, right now I'm upset, right now I probably need to walk away. No. It's your ability to understand other people and be sensitive to how they feel as well. And this is very important within our relationships. My cat is just so curious. I'm sorry, everyone. Oh, come on, honey. I know, I'm sorry. All right. I know I talk to her like a baby. I know, it's cringy. But anyways, so it's our ability to understand other people's emotions. So understand our emotions, but also be sensitive to other people as well. And I like to use this example from, again, the movie Inside Out. So if any of you have seen the movie Inside Out, you have a picture of Bing Bong here. Let me see if the video, no, the video's not gonna work. But we have Bing Bong here on all of your right-hand side. And then we have Sadness, the little blue character. And so Bing Bong is really sad. Riley, his person, right? He was her imaginary friend. And unfortunately, Riley no longer remembers her imaginary friend Bing Bong. And so he's really sad about the situation. And Joy, which is like this really upbeat, outgoing character, she's like, oh, Bing Bong, like everything's gonna be okay. Come on, let's go. We need to go. And so on and so forth. And she's not responding appropriately to Bing Bong and understanding his emotions. So then Joy kind of goes off to the side, and then we see Sadness come into the picture. And she sits down with Bing Bong and she starts asking him questions. And you could feel the emotion within the dynamic between the two, where it wasn't just, oh, you need to get over this. She's gonna forget you. No. She started asking him questions like, it's really sad, huh? Like, are you okay? And then she's responding to his sadness, not trying to just fix the situation. And we talked about that in the previous chapter, right? Listening. But she really sat down to listen to him, to listen to his emotions, to understand his emotions. And clearly she's Sadness, so she has a little bit more of a feel for that type of specific emotion. But opposed to Joy, who kind of just came in and was like, come on, we need to go. We have a mission to accomplish. Sadness came in and she was more understanding, she was more empathetic, she was more sensitive to Bing Bong's feelings. So I do encourage you to go through, watch that video on YouTube if you'd like to see like the specific example. But I think that that's a decent description of the example that I wanted to provide here. So again, not only being aware of your emotions, but other people as well, right? So that's what emotional intelligence is. Moving on, we have what even are emotions? What do emotions entail? So first we have physiological changes, okay? So this can include heart rate, this could include blood pressure, this can include all of the above. Adrenaline, we experience emotion first and foremost through our body. So think about our presentations that we had a couple of weeks ago. Some of you, I remember, felt really, really nervous about giving a presentation. I remember having the discussion with many of you saying that you wanted to take the class because you knew there was going to be less group presentations, less presentations in general, and they would be a little bit more intimate in nature, like dyads, group presentations, and so on and so forth. So for those of you, again, the tape, we're just having a lot of technical difficulties today. All right, so first you feel it through your body. So for those of you who felt anxious, who felt nervous, right, your heart rate starts to go quicker, right? If you're feeling nervous about presentations, your blood pressure might go a little higher. You have higher adrenaline as well. You're like, okay, some of you went up there and I just saw all of this energy out of nowhere and you looked really excited, right? But first and foremost, your body feels it. So that's the physiological aspect we're talking about here. Second, we have nonverbal behaviors. So again, I'm watching all of you. You all are up there giving your presentations, and then we see some people kind of swaying back and forth, right? Rocking forward and backwards, tapping their hand on the desk, right? Because we have those nerves. And so that could also include the posture, right? Closing yourself off, leaning on a desk, staying behind a desk, right? The posture that you have, blushing, gestures. Again, you can probably tell, all right, Cecilia's semi-comfortable being on camera. I personally prefer face-to-face just because I get that nonverbal feedback from all of you and I appreciate it because it makes the process a little bit more authentic in nature. Like I can go back through, I can rewatch this multiple times, and we're gonna get into the fallacy of perfectionism, but remember those nonverbal cues, they can say a lot about you. They are up for interpretation, but when it comes to emotions, we not only feel emotions physiologically, right, but we can demonstrate that non-verbally as well. So third, we have cognitive interpretations. So with cognitive interpretations, the mind plays an important role in how we feel. So again, coming up for our presentations and thinking, oh, I'm so excited to kind of be up here, versus I am really anxious, I need to calm down, right? We are, in a sense, making some sort of interpretation of those bodily, like our hyperness, right? Our heart rate pounding up and down, even being aware of your nonverbal cues, and you're like constantly touching your hair because of your nerves. You start making interpretations of these different movements and of your physiological changes that are taking place as well. So last but certainly not least, we have verbal expressions, using words to accurately, directly describe emotions. So this is just straightforward saying, I am angry, I'm happy. Do you remember talking to like a brother, sister, aunt, uncle, cousin, and them saying, I'm fine? Are they accurately expressing their emotions? Probably not, right? They probably have a surplus of emotions taking place. Usually it's not one, it's many emotions that are taking place, whether it's happiness, sadness, excitedness, right? So it's being able to verbally express your emotions accurately. I'm fine, right? That's a very general statement, and maybe you are fine, maybe you are okay, but tell us a little bit more in depth, and we talk about this a little bit later, about how you are feeling. How are you fine? I'm bored. Well, why are you bored? How are you bored? Demonstrate that, right? Use your words, use language to express yourself in a more meaningful way so that other people can not just react to that, but have an understanding of your emotions as well. So moving on, so those are all of the aspects associated with emotion. Let's now talk about influences on emotional expression. Ooh, okay, yeah, some of the text is looking a little funky. All right, so one, our personality, and it's not to say that necessarily being extroverted means that you're really positive, or being introverted means that you're negative. That's not necessarily true at all, right? But we're talking about the people who just have a really positive mindset. Have you met anybody like that, where they just come into the room and they exude delight, they exude happiness, and you're just kind of like, okay, they just seem like such a genuinely happy, outgoing person, right? That's part of their personality. And so, of course, our personality can influence our emotions. So if, for instance, I'm a very positive person and I have that type of personality, more than likely I'm going to experience a lot of positive emotions where I am very joyful, I'm very excited, I'm very happy. And that's not to say that I will never experience negative emotions or emotions that are viewed as negative, such as being angry, such as being sad, but we still exhibit these. Most of us exhibit all of these: happiness, sadness, joy, fear, anger, anxiety, right? We still exhibit all of these, but our personality can play a huge role in the emotions that we have. And so you might just meet those people who have a very upbeat personality and they're always happy and they're always excited. Not to say that they're not ever sad or angry either, but personality plays a huge role. Next, we have culture. So in some cultures, okay, so in some cultures, right, it's not viewed favorably to show emotion. So for instance, and you know what, this kind of goes with culture, gender, and social conventions. For instance, how many of you were told growing up not to cry, right? Or how many of you were told, crying is like, boys shouldn't cry? How many of you have heard that growing up as well? And that goes back to our culture, of course, and social conventions that are in place, but it also goes back to gender. You see how kind of like there's an overlap between the three, but in different cultures and different societies, certain emotions are not perceived respectively, right? You're not supposed to show your emotions. You're not supposed to show your sadness. You're not supposed to show your anger. And so that is demonstrated in different cultures. And again, when we're talking about culture, we're not just talking about like a specific area in the world. We could even be looking at different states. We could be looking at different regions within a state in itself. So culture varies, and the expectations that other individuals have of you in regards to sharing your emotions and exposing your emotions, it can vary depending on your background, your experiences, and particularly your culture. Next, we have gender and social conventions. So again, that goes back to the example of, oh, boys shouldn't cry. And some of you might hear that and kind of just cringe and be like, oh, I never want to teach my children that. And then other people might be like, well, I think that that's important, right? But we don't want to also create these overgeneralizations or these stereotypes associated with boys aren't supposed to cry, right? Because if you're telling somebody, I've even been told like, okay, you need to I remember growing up people telling me that I was a crybaby. And so hearing that a good majority of my childhood made me not want to express my emotions, my sadness, my anger out loud with other people. And so for a long period of time, I wasn't able to express myself. And I would say generally in the culture that I grew up with, being a female and expressing your emotions, it wasn't necessarily looked down upon, but me in particular, being the youngest of 3 children, I did get teased a lot about it. And so it wasn't necessarily my gender that played a huge role in being an emotional individual. And a lot of you probably look at me right now and you're like, Cecilia, you are a very emotional person. But it went back to my culture, my upbringing, and why I really didn't want to express those personal emotions with other people, just because I felt like they were frowned upon. So again, that's going back to culture, gender. There are different social conventions for men and women, and these different stereotypes and overgeneralizations may exist. But again, not to say that something is right or wrong. That's based off of you. That's based off of your upbringing. That's based off of your culture. But these things influence how we feel and what we are able to express to other people. So culture plays a huge role. Gender plays a huge role. Social conventions and roles set up by our society, those play a huge role in the emotions that we want to demonstrate to the world around us, things that we want to hold in, and we're like, oh, this isn't appropriate within this type of context, right? And then we also have social media. So for some, social media is a way that we can kind of express ourselves more freely. And then other people see that's a positive, that's a pro. And then a con of social media could be that we are now comparing ourselves to other people. And there's research done on this where social media, it can relate back to depression and tendencies to feel lesser than, because you see individuals out there living their best life, right? Going on vacations, going out with friends. And then we may start to compare ourselves, we may start to compare our lives and our what we are doing as a whole, like, oh, this person's really successful and I'm still going to school, or this person is out traveling and I barely have enough money to even pay for my rent, right? So we start maybe comparing ourselves with others. And we talked about social comparison as well, but it can be a positive thing, it can be a negative thing, but think about how those affect your emotions. Right, social media can definitely, sometimes I'll go on social media, look up a couple of memes, it'll make me laugh, it'll brighten up my day, and it'll make me happy, right? But at the other end of the spectrum, it can be a negative thing as well. All right, so moving on, we have how to go about managing our emotions. So first, we want to look at facilitative and deliberative emotions. And so when we're talking about facilitative emotions, people think of these more so as like the positive emotions, and then the deliberative more so as negative emotions. So for facilitative, let's start off there. It contributes to effective functioning such as joy and love. So for instance, it's okay to be sad about a breakup. Right? It's facilitative in nature, it's positive in nature, because it's going to help you feel better, right? Holding it in and just not being able to let it out, that's going to build up over time. It might cause outbursts to occur. And that goes back to deliberative. So hinders or prevents effective performance, such as fear or anger. So grieving a breakup for the rest of your life. That's no bueno, okay? Is that going to make you feel better? Is that going to be helpful to you as an individual, right? Instead, it's hindering your ability to move on. It's hindering your ability to move forward, to start other relationships, to feel happy. So holding on to that, to resentment, holding on to anger, right? Those are deliberative in nature. And overall, it's not helping you function as a human being. So we want to look at facilitative. We're going to go a little bit more in depth about fallacies and deliberative tendencies when it comes to the fallacies. But remember, we want to focus on facilitative emotions. So again, being sad, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be positive in nature if it helps you overcome those barriers that are within you, right? So if you are sad over the breakup, that's not necessarily deliberative in nature. It's effective because it's helping you function and process and feel through these emotions and move forward in life. All right, so moving on, let's talk about the fallacies. All right, and again, I have my little notebook here. I think I've done pretty well. I stayed on topic, generally speaking, aside from my cat, which, oh, she's chilling over there now. Okay, that's great. Hello, beautiful. All right, so let's jump into the different types of fallacies. So we have the fallacy of perfection, the fallacy of approval, fallacy of should. So each of them are fallacy of this, fallacy of helplessness, fallacy of catastrophic expectations. So we're going to go over each one, and I'm going to provide an example of each one. Normally, I like to go through and I like to put you all into groups or put you all in your same groups and have you do a skit for each one of these. I know some of y'all lucked out, okay? I know some of you are like, yes, I'm so happy I didn't have to do a skit for this. But these are kind of fun to think about in regards to which one of these in particular do you feel like you prescribe to? There's a number of these that I'm like, oh yeah, I tend to do that, I tend to do that, I tend to do that. And think about how each one of these fallacies could negatively inhibit your ability to communicate effectively and essentially move forward, right? And feel positive emotions and practice facilitative emotions. So first, let's talk about the fallacy of perfection. So with the fallacy of perfection, we're handling situations with complete confidence. So the fallacy of perfection, this is essentially you believing that I should be getting straight A's, I should be able to travel, I should be getting raises every few months for my job. I want to do the best work possible and get the best grade possible. And I know at first this might sound like, okay, this isn't a bad thing. You want to do well in your life. You want to be successful. You want to succeed. And aspiring to do these things, it's not necessarily a negative thing, right? To have high motivation, to have high respect for yourself and want to do well. That's not bad. But it can be detrimental to you and it can be detrimental to your emotions if you have this high regard for yourself and you're not constantly hitting it, if that makes sense. So earlier, again, I was talking about my videos and I'm able to go through and I'm able to rewatch them. And to be completely honest, at times I can be hard on myself because I'm like, okay, I said like every other word. Like I'm making all these noises, my cat keeps coming into the picture, I keep having to move, right? And so I go back and I have to rewatch it and I'm just hypercritical of myself because I want everything to be perfect, right? And again, that could be detrimental to my emotions because then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it like, okay, maybe I should record it. And then I spend 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours re-recording it. And I learned not to do that, right? Because again, it's not healthy for my emotions. So again, I've been practicing doing these videos now for a couple of weeks. And so I feel a lot more confident with the content that I produce. And am I learning? Yes. Am I perfect? No. And I think that that's something really important to remind yourself of. Perfection does not exist, right? You might have high expectations for yourself and you might think negatively of an outcome like I could have done so much better, but everything in life is a learning experience. And I think that that's a healthier approach to take rather than being so hard on yourself and thinking, oh, I need to get 112 points opposed to 100 points, right? Great, shoot for the stars. But remember, none of us are perfect. We all have room for growth and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Like, see this video, I'm like, oh, but it's okay. It's okay. We are all human. None of us are perfect. And everything that we go through, it's experience that's only going to help us grow. All right, so that's level or fallacy of perfection. Next, let's talk about the fallacy of approval. So with the fallacy of approval, we are seeking acceptance from others. So we need to be accepted no matter what. And I like to think about high school, right? We have the individual, like the popular kids, the athletic individuals, the individuals that are into the arts. And so I remember being in high school seeking some sort of social approval from other people. And I honestly didn't do anything too crazy to try to feel accepted or part of a group. But there are individuals out there, I'm sure you could probably think of a few, who will go to great depths to feel a part of something. And maybe you see this in fraternities. And it's not always true. Like what we see in the movies is not necessarily always true with fraternities. But if you want to think about that example, like in movies where people will do crazy things to just be part of that group, great, like run around and streak and do crazy things like that. That's what you might want to think of when you think of the fallacy of approval. People who just want to feel accepted by other people and they'll go to great lengths to be accepted by other individuals, right? So there's the fallacy of perfection, the fallacy of approval. Now let's talk about the fallacy of should. So with the fallacy of should, it's the inability to distinguish what is and what should be. And this is a really large source of unhappiness because you're thinking to yourself, I should be funny, I should be getting straight A's, I should do this. And it kind of goes along with making these overgeneralizations. But with the should aspect, it's not being able to distinguish reality from what you are hoping for. And again, it goes back to, I should be able to do this. I should be able to finish all of my classes with straight A's. I should be able to clean the yard, finish this video, clean my room, feed my cat, finish all of my grading within one day for 3 different classes, read 20 different papers that are 3 to 5 pages, and right? And so it's having that harsh line of what should be versus what is actually reality and what you're capable of doing in a sense. So there's perfection, approval, should, and now we have the fallacy of overgeneralization. Now with the fallacy of overgeneralization, it's the basis belief on limited evidence. So you're basing your belief on limited evidence. So this goes back to, I feel like I talked about this in chapter 2, chapter 3, about overgeneralizing a group of people, making general assumptions about people based off of very limited knowledge and understanding. So I don't want to go too in depth with that one, but it's just making overgeneralizations like, oh, you know, this group of people is this way, or these group of people are that way, or men should be this way, or women should be this way. And think about, again, how that goes back to your emotions. If you don't see a group of individuals, for instance, abiding by that overgeneralization that you have, that could create anger, that could create fear. And it's unnecessary in a sense, because you're overgeneralizing a group. Not every single group of individuals is that specific way. So just be mindful of that. And then we have the fallacy of causation. All right, fallacy of causation: should not hurt or inconvenience others. So I have a strong tie to this one. So again, it's the fallacy of causation: should not hurt or inconvenience others. Right? So you do not want to have a disregard for others' feelings. And for the, sorry, I'm thinking a bit. So for the fallacy of causation, you don't want to be a burden on other people, right? You care about the being socially approved by others, and that kind of goes hand in hand with the fallacy of approval. But on top of that, there is a huge sense of I don't want to be I remember feeling this way when I would go to Disneyland, for instance, and my ex-partner, they were very upbeat, they were super outgoing, and we went on Pirates of the Caribbean, and they took out their phone, and I remember having so much anxiety. And see, for other people, it's okay, they took out their phone, that's not a big deal. You're at a park, you pay all of this money, you should be able to kind of do whatever you want. But I remember feeling oh my goodness, it's dark everywhere, and other people around us, they could see the phone light up, and it gave me so much anxiety because I did not want to be a burden on others, and I cared more so about their feelings than even my partner at the time. And I kind of just freaked out a little bit under my breath, and I was like, you need to put your phone away, right? And again, I wasn't using appropriate language. I wasn't able to express my feelings and my emotions in a respectful manner that demonstrated okay, I am feeling this way because A, B, and C. I would really appreciate. No, I didn't do that. I was very quick, right, to express myself because my emotions just took a hold of me. So it's with the fallacy of causation, you don't want to essentially be a burden on other people. You don't want to, by any means, inconvenience others. That's very important to you. And as you could see, with my anxiety, the fallacy of causation, it plays a huge role in social functions, not necessarily teaching, but when I'm around other people, I'm definitely a lot healthier in this aspect of it because I notice it. But I remember always feeling oh my goodness, I don't want to inconvenience other people. Let me kind of go off to the side. Let me go and do this. But can you see how that could be detrimental to your health? That could be detrimental to your emotions. So it's understanding okay, you know what? I do actually do that frequently, right? So what can I do to better express myself and my emotions with the people who are around me during these particular circumstances, right? So if I have a fallacy of perfection and I just, right, being able to express yourself, but also being mindful of it and being able to act in accordance with those emotions in a healthy manner. So I know that I do that, right? And so it's really not my place to tell him to put his phone away. He is his own, he really is his own individual, right? And starting to think about things from different perspectives, opposed to just jumping to conclusions and just relaying your feelings and being like, this is how I feel and this is how things should be, right? So there's the fallacy of causation. Next, we have the fallacy of hopelessness. And so with the fallacy of helplessness, you don't feel like you have any type of control. So forces beyond our control determine satisfaction in life. So this is like saying, you know, it's out of my hands, in a sense. This exam, it's out of my hands. Even if you didn't attend any of the classes, you didn't turn in any of the work, but you're like, it's out of my hands, you know, it is what it is. And there are a couple of examples in regards to like higher power, but I don't necessarily want to go there. But think about how individuals, they kind of just don't take accountability for themselves or for their actions, and they're kind of just like, you know, it's out of my hands, it's not my fault. I've seen this not necessarily with any students in this class or any like in this term, but like when I barely started teaching, I remember seeing this because I was kind of like new at everything. But I would see students who are just kind of like, well, you're not doing this right, or you didn't talk about that. I'm like, no, I did, right? And so it's kind of that lack of accountability that's taking place for the person. And instead of saying like, oh yeah, I didn't do any of the assignments, I didn't attend any of the lectures, I didn't watch any of the, right? Instead of taking that type of accountability, it's kind of like, well, you know, it is what it is. And so there's that lack of accountability when it comes to helplessness. So following perfection, approval, should, overgeneralization, causation, and helplessness, we finally have catastrophic expectations. So the fallacy of catastrophic expectations. All right. If something bad can happen, it more than likely will. So for instance, if you want to ask someone out on a date, you might, if you're under the fallacy of catastrophic expectations, you're probably thinking to yourself, no, they're not going to want to go out with me. They're going to say no. They're definitely going to say no. So you immediately jump to the negative, right? So, oh, for this exam, I'm probably going to fail it. For this, I'm probably going to do that, right? So you think that the worst is going to happen within most, if not all, scenarios. So, and that can kind of go back to self-worth, right, and self-esteem. But with catastrophic expectations, you are expecting the worst of the worst to happen. So that can definitely affect the actions that you take place. But imagine the emotional toll that will take on an individual who constantly perceives that something negative is going to happen. That's going to probably show that they're fearful, they have a lot of anxiety, they may have low self-esteem, and those may not always be the case, but just imagine how that individual will feel if they tend to fall under the fallacy of catastrophic expectations. So you kind of can see how these are non-deliberative in nature, right? They hinder or they prevent effective performance. They hinder or prevent effective communication with your loved ones, with partners, with instructors, with all of the different relationships that you do have. So moving on, I know there's kind of an overlap with the text, but let's practice on minimizing deliberative feelings, the relational emotive approach. And I know that the key to change feelings is to, that's what that says, okay? The key to change feelings is to change unproductive cognitive interpretations. And it goes back to mindfulness and also self-talk. That's a key word here, self-talk. So express positive emotion or express positive feedback to yourself, and that's interpersonal communication. So how do you talk to yourself? That's very important when it comes to emotions and the emotions that you tend to have. So if you find yourself constantly angry, constantly happy, constantly sad, think about how you talk to yourself. So if you're constantly telling yourself, you know what, Cecilia, you're doing a good job, you're trying your best, you're doing what you can do, right? That's a little bit more positive in nature. And after this, I post the video and I'm like, okay, Cecilia, you know what? You're doing your best. You got to keep moving forward. Just keep on keeping on. Opposed to, wow, that video came out horrible. You should have done such a bit, right? Imagine myself talking to myself in that manner inside. That's going to definitely be detrimental to not only my actions, right? Maybe I record this 2, 3, 4, 5 more times, but also it could be detrimental to your emotional health, right? Your health in itself. So how do you talk to yourself? Do you talk to yourself in a positive way? Do you talk to yourself in a negative way? Really think about that. Every single day you wake up, how are you talking to yourself, right? And in order to minimize deliberative feelings, we are saying self-talk. Talk to yourself in a positive way, right? Make productive cognitive interpretations, right? Look at what you're doing well. Look, I woke up today. Maybe I woke up a little bit later in the day than I would like, but you know what? I helped my mom out. I went to the store with her to get her basic necessities that she needed. I cleaned my room, right? Think about the positive. Talk positively to yourself, and that's only going to help with facilitating positive emotions, okay? So there's number 1. 2, beliefs you hold about an event. So meeting strangers causes these emotions. So for some of you, you may feel very high uncertainty avoidance and high apprehension when giving presentations or when meeting new people. And so it again goes back to how you are thinking about these events, the beliefs that you have about them. So I remember for public speaking, for instance, I had the belief that I would always do poorly. I didn't have high self-esteem when I barely started taking communication courses, when I barely started college. I was a bit lost, but I had the belief that, you know, I was going to do poorly every single time. And that goes back to the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? If you believe you're going to do bad, more than likely you're going to do bad. So changing your pattern of belief, changing how you talk to yourself, those are very, very important in creating a more healthy way of expressing your emotions and dealing with your emotions internally as well. So last but certainly not least, thoughts cause feelings, not necessarily the events in themselves. You have control of your emotions. You have control of your feelings. And it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be sad. It's okay. These emotions, they are okay. They can be facilitated in nature. And sometimes everybody deals with these different emotions differently. But again, it's being able to express yourself well with your partner or with your children or with your parents or with your supervisor, right? Being able to express yourself and your emotions in an effective way that's going to help you proceed in your life, right? And have a good outcome. So thoughts, remember, thoughts cause feelings, not necessarily the event in themselves. So it's not the public speaking that's causing your fear in itself. It's the thoughts that you're having about public speaking. I'm going to do poorly. I'm not going to do well. I'm probably going to trip, right? No, you're going to do well. Remember self-talk. I'm going to do well. I'm going to be successful. Self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm going to kick this presentation out of the park. So it goes back to what you believe, how you feel about yourself, thoughts that you internally have. A lot has to do with interpersonal communication and you as an individual, and thinking about and processing these emotions so that you can effectively communicate out loud with other people and maintain happy and stable relationships with them as well. So moving on, I believe this is the last bit, expressing emotions effectively. Yes, this is the last bit. Yes, people, yes. All right, so expressing emotions effectively. And yes, this is the last bit. Right, so we have 6 ways that we can work on expressing our emotions. So first, recognize your own feelings, right? Whether you're sad, happy, angry, right? Recognizing your own feelings. 2, choose the best language. This is not always easy to do, especially when you're heated, you're in the moment, right? But it kind of goes with number 6, choosing the best time and place to express your feelings. You might be heated, you might be really upset, but you might need to kind of back away for a minute so that you are able to express yourself in a meaningful way that will not debilitate your relationship and will not hurt your relationship overall. Remember, we all experience anger. right? But some of us may deal with it a little bit differently, where we do need that additional space. Some individuals, they like to talk about it head on, immediately. And remember, every person is not the same. Some people really do need that additional space so that they can collect their thoughts, so that they can collect their feelings, and so that they can collect them, so that they could choose the best language possible. And this is a little bit, in my opinion, simpler to do through text, because you can go through, you can reword it, but you can also it can also be damning to you if you're doing it through text, because now you have like the physical copy and be like, well, you said this and this is the tone that you read, right? But again, using appropriate language so that other individuals, they can understand what you are trying to express to them. 3, sharing multiple feelings. We are all emotional creatures. More recently, brief story, more recently I had an incident in one of my classes. Actually, this was a while ago, but all right, not to say like where it was at, what school it was at, but I had an incident more recently, and it was actually the day that we were supposed to go over emotions. And this just goes to show that we all have room for improvement. But there was an assignment due that day, and the student tried to turn it in, and let's just say it kind of went back and forth, and it was not facilitative in nature. It was not beneficial by any means. Both of us were in the wrong. I know for sure that I was definitely in the wrong. We both had room for growth in regards to being able to express our emotions in an effective way to get the ending result that we both more so desired. But I had multiple feelings. I was angry. I was sad, to be completely honest. I was extremely anxious. I had all of these different emotions that I was trying to balance while communicating with this one student. And I could sense too that they also had a lot of these different emotions taking place. And remember, when we have these emotions, sometimes it's okay to step away. It's okay to step aside from the situation, just because you don't, like, when we're talking about it in chapter 1, once it's out there, it's out there. You can't take it back. It's like that toothpaste metaphor that we use. Once that information is out there, once that toothpaste is out there, you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube. So it goes the same with any type of relationship, whether it is a student and a professor, or you and your partner, you and your children, right? Once that bit of information is out there, it's out there. But understand that you have all of these different emotions that are taking place, and it could definitely impede your ability to communicate effectively. So think about what you can do as an individual to be able to express yourself in a healthy way, whether it is kind of putting yourself off for a bit, going into your room, listening to music. What really helps you calm down and express yourself in a more meaningful way? So there's sharing multiple feelings, right? Anxiety, sadness, there's the example there. So number 4, recognize the difference between feeling and acting. Remember, a lot of our emotions or our feelings, they play a huge role in our actions. And it can kind of go, and vice versa. Our actions play a huge role in how we feel as well. If you do really well on an exam, for instance, you'll feel happy. You'll be like, yes, I did such a great job. But remember, there is a difference between the two. Do they go hand in hand? Yes, of course they do. But as we were talking about right here, right? Thoughts cause feelings, not necessarily the events in themselves. So not the actions necessarily of others. Think about expressing yourself, what you can do to make a difference within the communication that is taking place between you and your partner, between you and your professor, between you and your coworkers. So recognize difference between feeling and acting, completely separate things. 5, accept responsibility for your feelings. Remember, we are not all perfect people. We're not. I'm not. I know that I'm not. And so just accepting responsibility for your feelings. I've come into classes before just in like a very, like, I'm just so tired and just so exhausted. I remember one term I was teaching like 7 or 8 classes, and we had presentations, and for some reason none of the technology was working, and students could sense that I was frustrated, that I was trying to get everything set up. And so if I were able to kind of just take a step back, probably go to the restroom, breathe a little bit, and be like, okay, everyone, like, this is kind of what we're gonna do, right? If I had taken that brief moment to collect myself, it probably would have helped with the communication that was taking place that particular day with everyone. So it's understanding like, okay, this is what I did wrong. This is what I could have done differently. Being able to understand my own emotions, right? And then moving forward from there. Because again, our emotions, they will, I promise you that, and I know it's going to happen for me as well, they will take a toll on you. They're going to make you possibly act in ways that you aren't happy with later on, thinking back and thinking, why did I do that? Why did I say that? You know, I was just angry. I was sad. I was upset, right? And it's building from those experiences. That's really all it is. Building from those experiences and realizing, hey, this is what I really need to work on. Hey, when I'm upset, I really need to take a minute to walk away. Or hey, when I'm upset, it's better when I talk to the person directly one-on-one, or even text them or send them an email or write them a letter. That's the best way for me to express myself in a healthy way. So there's number 5. And then number 6, choose the best time and place to express your feelings. Telling your partner that you hate being around their family and they make you feel uncomfortable while you're at a party with their family and they're making you feel uncomfortable may not be the best time, because y'all just got there and you're going to be there for another 2 to 3 hours and they're expecting you to be there for another 2 to 3 hours. So again, it's being mindful of the situation that's taking place. And remember, we all have those different masks. We're all actors on a stage in accordance with Irving Goffman's theory, but just choosing the best time, place to express your feelings, being aware of the context, the situation, others who are around. Now, last but certainly not least, I would like for you all to assess your emotional intelligence. How aware are you of your emotions as well as other emotions? So you will see this scale on page 243 that assesses your emotions. I also added it onto this module. I didn't screenshot it. I made a copy of it for all of you, and it has the directions on it as well. This is not for any points. This is just for you to kind of have a better understanding of yourself, of your own emotions. After I make this video and after I start like downloading it, because it takes hours for it to download and for me to put it on YouTube, I'm actually going to have my nephew take the emotional intelligence assessment just to kind of see where he's at, and we're going to kind of compare our results, because I'm trying to spend an hour every single day with my nephew just so we can have just a one-on-one and we just talk for an hour. But it'll be fun. If you'd like to use it for your children or for your spouse, your parents, right? Check to see how emotionally intelligent or how emotionally aware are they. Think about the individuals who are always like, oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I don't want to talk about, right? Give them this assessment, print it out for them, or just like put it on your screen and have them go through, fill it out, and see how emotionally intelligent they are. And think about ways that the both of you can enhance your communication skills, but also enhance your ability to communicate effectively in regards to your emotions, sharing your different emotions. And again, what works best for you may not necessarily work best for your partner. So talking about these with your partner, your loved ones, practice. The most important thing is understanding how emotionally intelligent you are, looking at emotions that you need to work on, and building from there, right? Because again, we all have room for growth and we all have room for knowledge. Okay, so let me go ahead and take this off the screen really quickly. Beautiful. All right, so last but certainly not least, I know this is kind of off from chapter 8. I do have an extra credit assignment coming up. I have been reading actually several books just because I can't go out. So I've had a couple of books on my shelf that I've been wanting to read. This is one of them. I know, it's very interesting. This actually has a lot to do with emotion and some of the information, some of the earlier information about emotion. Let me see. I don't even think I mentioned all of it. But like, why don't we do things we know we should? I actually retrieved that question from this textbook here, or this book here. But I do have an extra credit assignment coming up. It's not necessarily in relation to this, but it is in relation to the 5 love languages. Right now I'm reading a words. See, now I know I'm at the end and I'm like, okay, let's go, Cecilia. But there's this, it's a lot more brief than this. Like if you look at it, yeah, there's a lot of information in one. The other book is a lot more it's not very dense in nature in comparison to this book, but it's the 5 love languages. If you go online and you search the 5 love languages, it has different quizzes. And so you're going to be noticing in the upcoming weeks, we will be talking about the 5 love languages. It's one of my favorite. I know, I feel like every week I'm like, it's one of my favorite sections, but it really is one of my favorite sections. And we're going to go ahead and do an extra credit exercise where you're going to send me your results and so on and so forth. But just know, I'm trying my best to look out for all of you. I'm trying my best to not make everything so long and so dense. And I'm not, let's see. I don't even know how long this video is, but I'll try to cut it short. There are extra credit opportunities still coming up, even though we are not meeting in face-to-face, in a face-to-face environment. Just know that there are extra credit opportunities coming up. And if you have questions, comments, concerns, please, please, please do not hesitate to email me. Don't be stressed about asking me for a Zoom session. I love Zoom. Zoom is amazing. But in regards to like face-to-face, if you would like to use any other platform because you don't feel comfortable using Zoom, I'd be okay with that as well, as long as it's kind of like academic in nature. But I appreciate all of the feedback that I've received, and communicate with me. Let me know what's up so that I can get additional intel on how you all are doing, and so that I can make adjustments if those are necessary as well. I hope that you all are doing great. Just so you know, you are doing great. You're doing amazing, okay? But I hope that emotionally, physically, y'all are doing okay. Just, if anything, email me and we can work it out together, okay? So everybody enjoy your weekend, and I will see you in the next one, or your week. And I will see you in the next one.